You're standing on a world so close to the sun that daytime temperatures hit 800 degrees Fahrenheit, hot enough to melt lead right where you stand. Then the sun sets, and in the airless dark, that same ground drops to nearly 290 degrees below zero within hours. No atmosphere means no blanket, no buffer, nothing to trap the heat or soften the cold. You're on Mercury, the smallest planet in the solar system, barely larger than our own moon, and the fastest thing orbiting the sun. It whips around its orbit in just 88 Earth days, moving so quickly that ancient astronomers named it after the messenger god who could outrun anything. That's the connection you can't unsee once you notice it. Mercury is basically Quicksilver. Same obsession with speed. Same restless energy that never lets it sit still for even a moment. And just like Quicksilver never really settles down, Mercury never really slows down either. It's so fast that a single day on Mercury, from sunrise to sunrise, actually takes 176 Earth days to complete, because its rotation is oddly out of sync with its orbit around the sun. You'd experience 2 full years on Mercury just to get from one sunrise to the next, one of the strangest calendar quirks anywhere in the solar system. Its surface looks almost exactly like the moon, gray, cratered, ancient, because with no real atmosphere to speak of, nothing erodes the scars left by billions of years of impacts. Wind doesn't sweep the dust away. Rain never falls to smooth the edges. Every crater you'd see has essentially been frozen in time since the moment it formed, some of them billions of years old. Mercury also has a surprisingly large iron core for its size, making up nearly 85% of its radius, which generates a weak magnetic field that scientists still don't fully understand. Strangest of all, despite those blistering daytime temperatures, permanently shadowed craters near Mercury's poles are cold enough to hide actual water ice, frozen in darkness just miles from surfaces hot enough to melt metal. But here's the part that catches people off guard every time. Even though it's the closest planet to the sun, Mercury isn't the hottest planet in the solar system. That title belongs to your next stop. Now picture a planet that, from a distance, looks like Earth's twin. Almost the same size, almost the same mass, almost the same rocky composition, formed from the same swirling disk of material billions of years ago. And that's exactly the problem, because everything about that similarity turns out to be a lie. Get closer, and you'd find a surface hot enough to melt lead, hotter than Mercury, even though Venus sits much farther from the sun. Its atmosphere is nearly 100 times thicker than Earth's, made almost entirely of carbon dioxide, trapping heat in a runaway greenhouse effect that never lets go, day or night, year after year, century after century. The clouds above you aren't water vapor. They're sulfuric acid, drifting endlessly through skies that reflect sunlight so well, Venus is the brightest planet in our night sky. The pressure at the surface would crush you the way the deep ocean crushes a submarine hundreds of meters down. This is why Venus feels like Loki. It looks familiar, even inviting from far away, dressed up as something you'd trust. And the moment you get close, you realize the whole thing was an illusion designed to destroy you. Venus even spins backwards compared to almost every other planet, rotating in the opposite direction, like it's playing by a different set of rules entirely and daring you to notice the deception. A day on Venus, one full rotation, actually takes longer than its entire year around the sun, a fact that sounds impossible until you remember just how slowly it turns, only completing one rotation every 243 Earth days. Every spacecraft that has ever landed there has survived only a matter of hours before the heat and pressure destroyed it completely, and some never even made it to the ground intact. Scientists believe Venus may have once had oceans of its own, billions of years ago, before a runaway greenhouse effect boiled them away forever, leaving behind the hellscape you see today. Lightning flickers constantly within its thick cloud decks, and high above the surface, at roughly 30 miles up, Venus is proof that beauty and hostility can wear the exact same face, a planet built entirely on deception, gorgeous from orbit and utterly lethal the moment you step onto the ground. a warning about what a world can become when things go wrong. And now, you're home. After the extremes of Mercury and the deception of Venus, Earth feels almost impossibly balanced, like a needle threaded through conditions that had almost no room for error. Not too close to the sun, not too far. An atmosphere thick enough to breathe, but not thick enough to crush you. Liquid water covering nearly 70% of the surface, a magnetic field generated by a molten iron core that shields you from deadly solar radiation, and plate tectonics slowly recycling the crust over millions of years, regulating temperature in ways no other planet we've found can match. Every single one of those factors had to line up for life to exist here. And as far as we know, across everything we've observed, it only lined up once in the entire universe. This is why Earth is Captain America. Not the flashiest power set in the room, no lightning, no super strength, but the one everything else is measured against. The steady center that holds the whole story together. Earth is the only planet where you'll find liquid water pooling on the surface, in oceans, rivers, and lakes, rather than locked away as ice or vanished entirely as vapor into the void. It's also the only planet with a single large moon stabilizing its axial tilt, which is why we get predictable seasons instead of chaotic, unpredictable climate swings that would make complex life nearly impossible. Earth spins once every 24 hours and completes a full lap around the sun every 365 days. Numbers so familiar you rarely stop to marvel at them. Yet they're the invisible rhythm behind every sunrise and every season you've ever lived through. But zoom out far enough, and Earth is nothing more than a thin, fragile shell of life, clinging to a rock hurtling through the vacuum of space at 67,000 miles per hour. The one known exception in an otherwise silent universe. Every ocean, mountain range, and living thing you've ever known exists within a crust that, compared to Earth's total diameter, is thinner relative to the planet than the skin is on an apple. You've left the only planet we know for certain has life, and now you're standing on one that might have had it once, long, long ago. Mars is red because its surface is covered in iron oxide, rust, essentially, the result of iron reacting with whatever oxygen existed there in its ancient, wetter past. Ancient riverbeds, dried lake basins, and mineral deposits that only form in the presence of water all point to the same conclusion. Mars was once wet, and possibly warm enough to support life, billions of years before you ever arrived. Then it lost its protective magnetic field. The solar wind slowly stripped away most of its atmosphere over billions of years, and the planet you see today is a cold, thin-aired desert, with average temperatures around 80 degrees below zero, and dust storms that can swallow the entire planet for weeks at a time. This is Red Hulk territory, a planet that looks angry, aggressive, scarred by its own violent history. Yet underneath that raw red exterior is a world scientists still take seriously as a former home for life. Mars hosts the largest volcano in the entire solar system, Olympus Mons, nearly 3 times the height of Mount Everest and wide enough to cover an entire state, and a canyon system, Valles Marineris, that would stretch across the entire width of the United States if you laid it down. 2 small, oddly shaped moons, Phobos and Deimos, likely captured asteroids rather than true moons, orbit so close and so fast that Phobos is slowly spiraling inward and will eventually break apart or crash into the surface within tens of millions of years. Every rover we've sent, from Spirit and Opportunity to Curiosity and Perseverance, has been hunting for the same answer. Did life ever exist here? And could it exist again someday? Mars also has seasons like Earth, thanks to a similar axial tilt. But each season lasts nearly twice as long, since a full Martian year takes 687 Earth days to complete. Mars isn't just red and furious. It's a planet with a past it hasn't fully explained to us yet, holding on to secrets buried somewhere beneath all that rust-colored dust. Nothing prepares you for the scale of what comes next. Jupiter is so massive that every other planet in the solar system could fit inside it, combined, with room left over to spare several times over. It's a gas giant with no true solid surface, just layer after layer of hydrogen and helium compressing under crushing pressure until, deep in its interior, hydrogen begins to behave like a liquid metal, conducting electricity and generating the most powerful magnetic field of any planet in the solar system. This is Thor, and not just because Jupiter is named after the king of the Roman gods. Jupiter's gravity is so overwhelming that it acts as the solar system's bodyguard, its immense pull deflecting or capturing asteroids and comets that might otherwise threaten the inner planets, Earth included, absorbing impacts that would be catastrophic for us. On its surface swirls the Great Red Spot, a storm larger than Earth itself that has been raging continuously for at least 190 years, with wind speeds that would flatten any structure we've ever built in seconds. Jupiter has over 100 confirmed moons, and among them is Ganymede, the largest moon in the entire solar system, bigger even than the planet Mercury, and the only moon known to generate its own magnetic field. Another moon, Europa, hides a liquid ocean beneath its icy crust, containing potentially twice as much water as all of Earth's oceans combined, making it one of the most promising places in the solar system to search for life beyond Earth. Jupiter spins faster than any other planet, completing a full rotation in under 10 hours, despite its staggering size, whipping its clouds into colorful bands of ammonia and other compounds. Beneath those clouds, some scientists believe it may rain diamonds, as intense pressure compresses carbon deep in the atmosphere into crystallized form, falling endlessly through a planet with no surface to ever land on. Standing near Jupiter, you'd feel like you were in the presence of something with genuinely godlike scale and power. If Jupiter is raw power, Saturn is elegance, and the moment you see it, you understand exactly why. Its ring system, made of billions of individual pieces of ice and rock, some as small as grains of dust, others as large as mountains, stretches so wide it would nearly fill the distance between Earth and the Moon. Yet it's remarkably thin, in places barely the height of a few buildings stacked together, despite spanning hundreds of thousands of miles. That combination, mind-bending scale paired with delicate, almost impossible precision, is why Saturn feels like Doctor Strange, a planet that seems to be running on rules borrowed from another dimension entirely. Saturn is the least dense planet in the solar system, so light that if you could find an ocean big enough, it would actually float on the surface rather than sink. As of 2026, Saturn has more confirmed moons than any other planet, over 290 of them, a number that keeps climbing every time astronomers look a little closer with better instruments. Among them is Titan, a moon with a thick, hazy atmosphere and actual liquid lakes and rivers, just made of methane and ethane instead of water, making it the only other place in the solar system known to have stable liquid on its surface. Another moon, Enceladus, shoots geysers of water ice hundreds of miles out into space from a hidden ocean beneath its frozen shell, hinting at conditions that could potentially support microbial life. Saturn's hexagon-shaped storm at its north pole, wide enough to fit several Earths inside it, has puzzled scientists for decades and still isn't fully explained. The rings themselves are thought to be surprisingly young in cosmic terms, possibly only around 100 million years old, meaning dinosaurs may have walked the Earth under a Saturn that had no rings at all. Saturn isn't just beautiful from a distance. Every single layer you peel back reveals another improbable, almost magical detail hiding underneath the surface. Every planet you've visited so far spins more or less upright, but Uranus breaks that pattern entirely, and once you see it, you can't unsee it. It's tipped over almost completely sideways, rotating at roughly a 98-degree angle, essentially rolling around the sun like a ball instead of spinning like a top the way everything else does. Nobody knows for certain why, though the leading theory involves a massive planet-sized collision early in the solar system's history that knocked it onto its side permanently and never let it recover. This is Deadpool energy, a planet that looks at the rule book every other world in the solar system follows and simply refuses to play along with any of it. That extreme tilt creates seasons unlike anywhere else. Each pole gets roughly 21 years of continuous sunlight, followed by 21 years of total, unbroken darkness, an experience of time unlike anything you've felt before. Uranus is an ice giant, its pale blue-green color coming from methane in its atmosphere, absorbing red light and reflecting blue back out at you across millions of miles. It's also brutally cold, with cloud-top temperatures dropping to nearly 370 degrees below zero, among the coldest anywhere in the solar system, despite not even being the farthest planet from the Sun, a title that technically belongs to Neptune. Uranus has 29 confirmed moons, all of them named not after mythological figures like everywhere else, but after characters from Shakespeare and Alexander Pope. Yet another way this planet quietly insists on doing its own thing. Faint, dark rings circle it too, discovered almost by accident in 1977 when astronomers watched it pass in front of a distant star, thin enough that they went completely unnoticed for centuries before that moment. Deep beneath its atmosphere, scientists suspect pressure and chemistry combine to create literal diamond rain here as well, along with slushy oceans of water, ammonia, and methane that give Uranus and its neighbor the nickname ice giants, distinct from the gas giants closer to the Sun. And finally, you reach the edge, the most distant planet from the Sun, so far out that sunlight takes over 4 hours just to arrive there at all, compared to about 8 minutes for Earth. Despite that distance, Neptune isn't calm. It's the windiest planet in the entire solar system, with storms reaching speeds over 1,200 miles per hour, the fastest sustained winds ever recorded anywhere in our solar system, tearing across an atmosphere that receives barely any warmth from the distant Sun. Its deep blue color, along with its position as ruler of the solar system's most remote, ocean-like depths, is exactly why Neptune belongs to Namor, a distant, powerful sovereign of a world defined by water, isolation, and forces most of us will never fully understand from the surface of Earth. Neptune was actually the first planet discovered through mathematics rather than direct observation. Astronomers noticed irregularities in Uranus's orbit that shouldn't have existed, calculated almost exactly where an unseen planet had to be causing them, then pointed a telescope there in 1846 and found it waiting almost precisely where the math predicted. Neptune has 18 confirmed moons, and its largest, Triton, is one of the strangest objects in the entire solar system. It orbits backwards, opposite to Neptune's own rotation, which tells scientists it wasn't born alongside the planet at all, but was instead captured from the distant icy Kuiper belt long ago, dragged into orbit by Neptune's gravity. Triton is also geologically active, with ice volcanoes erupting nitrogen gas from its frozen surface even now, one of the few moons in the outer solar system still changing today. Triton's orbit is also slowly decaying, and in roughly 3.6 billion years, it will drift close enough for Neptune's gravity to tear it apart, possibly forming a new ring system even more spectacular than Saturn's. Neptune closes out the solar system the way it began, with a world of extremes, distant, dark, howling with wind, and quietly guarding secrets we're only just beginning to understand. The final, furious gatekeeper before the true emptiness of interstellar space begins.